The 10th and final objective is to explain the role of monitoring and using detection devices for the awareness level personnel. Monitoring and detection devices can be useful in determining the presence of hazardous material as well as the concentrations present. They can also be used to determine the scope of the incident. As with senses, effectively using monitoring and detection devices requires actual contact with the hazardous materials in order to measure it, and it is therefore outside the scope of action for the awareness level personnel. The review question for this last section is, why should awareness level personnel not use monitoring and detection devices? You can find the answer to this question on page 107 of the manual. The summary for Chapter 2 is that we discussed the 7 clues to the presence of hazardous materials. We explained how pre-incident plans, occupancy types, and locations may indicate the presence of hazardous materials. We identified basic container shapes that indicate the presence and hazards of hazardous materials. We described ways that U.S. transportation placards, labels, and markings indicate the presence and hazards of hazardous materials. We identified other markings and colors that indicate the presence of hazardous materials. We described other ways written resources are used to identify hazardous materials and their hazards. We explained the limited role of the 5 senses for identifying hazardous materials. And finally, we explained the role of monitoring and detection devices for awareness level personnel. And this is the conclusion of Chapter 2.